Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. Hey.
Hey! Haven't seen you all week.
We hardly ever get to see each other
No, we
anymore.
do. I have to watch you on video. I saw you on television.
You
Okay.
get seen on the internet tonight.
I'm Nelda,
I'm Gil.
and we're Calgary Dwelling Consultants with Maxwell
South
Star Realty, and we find quality tenants for
Residential
property owners. We find quality tenants for residential property owners. That's what we do.
Mhm.
And how. And today I'm going to start with a little story. Way back when I was in my 20s, a few years
Not
ago,
that long.
no, just a couple of years ago, I used to have this landlord who owned this house, and this was his big claim to fame. He wanted to buy all these houses so that he didn't have to work for anybody anymore, and he managed to do that. So that was good. He was really ancient, and if he wanted to fix something in your property, or if he had a crush on the girl upstairs, he never had a crush on me. He didn't. I really wasn't his type, which
You
was
silly guy.
I was really thrilled to he didn't have a crush on me. But he was this 80-year-old guy, and he'd get these crushes on these 25-year-old girls, and he'd go and wander around their properties when they weren't home. And if he was fixing something in my property, he would just wander in with his boots on. I always knew he'd been there because there'd be mud on my floor. So I'd call him and say, "Ralph, were you in my property? Like, were you wandering around in my living room?" "Well, yeah. And no one's going to tell me what I can and can't do with my own damn houses," is what he always used to say. And I used to think, if any of us were vindictive, decided we wanted to take him to court, I think the law would prove otherwise. And that's what Gil's going to talk about right now.
The law would prove otherwise. Without notice, you have to give 24 hours, or without permission or consent, you have to give 24 hours of notice to the tenant before you can go into the property. If you don't, you can be fined up to $5,000. So there's three sorts of entries of premises. There's the ones with agreement. We'll talk about that. There's the ones without agreement but with notice. We'll talk about that. And there's ones where there's no notice and no agreement. And we'll talk about that a bit too. The first one is if you have permission, consent from the tenant. You phoned them and they said, "Oh yeah, you can come on in." That's all good if you've got a good relationship with the tenant, but if the tenant decides that they're going to get vindictive on you for some reason, they could say, "I never agreed to it." So I always think it's best to email or text or have some written record of the person agreeing to your entry.
Or they could even forget, because people get busy, or maybe they're sick or tired or whatever, and they say yes on the phone, and then you show up at the door and they're like, "What are you doing here?" So
I'm calling the RTA.
That's where you could take out your phone or pull out the email or whatever and show them.
So the next one is entry without notice, or without consent but with notice. So you have to give 24 hours notice if you're going to enter the property, and there's five reasons that you can do it.
I'm starting with my fingers.
To inspect a repair that's already been done.
Okay.
To make repairs to the premises. For pest control. To show the premises to prospective purchasers or mortgagees. Or to show the premises to prospective tenants if the existing tenant has given notice or if their lease is coming to an end. Those are the only reasons that you have for actually going into a property, and you have to give 24 hours notice. Now, no notice and no consent can be done in two cases, and that is in the event of an emergency, if there's smoke coming out of it or water coming out of it. Yeah.
Fire or water, that's an emergency.
Yep.
Or if you think there's an animal who's sick and left alone in the house.
That would be an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Or if the tenant has abandoned the property. Those are the two reasons that you can go in without notice and without consent. Okay, so we're going to stop this part of the video, and now I'm going to go over our notice to enter premises so you can see what we do. And then we'll come back and we'll finish our little talk. So we thought we'd show you our notice to enter premises. It actually has a little bit more stuff on it than is required. As you can see on the top, we have the name of the tenant and the address of the tenant. Now normally the address of the tenant will be the same as the property that's being entered, but we have that twice just in case. It's required that the date and time of entry are specified on the notice. You'll see that here, the day of the week, the date, the month, and the year, and between the hours of, say, 8 o'clock or whatever, and like the earliest and the latest. We're required to have the reason for entry of premises, and there are basically 5 reasons that we can enter a property. We've talked about them already. So what you would do is check off any applicable reasons over here. We will put the date here. We sign it. We print our name. We provide our address, which also doesn't seem to be required. And we provide a phone number, which is a good idea, just in case they want to object to our entry. So it's a pretty basic form. It's not terribly complex, but it contains all the information that you need. So, once we've filled out this consent form, we'll take it and we'll attach it to the door of the tenant's unit. And then we will snap a picture of it with our phone so that we have a record with a timestamp of the fact that all of this was done. Now, one important thing to know, if you have a unit with like six property or 6 units, a property with 6 units in it, and it's got a single entrance, and you need to go into every one of those units, it's not enough to put the notice on the main entrance. You have to have 6 individual notices for 6 individual people.
Or what happens if you've got multiple tenants in one
Each
property?
tenant needs to be notified.
Okay. So, yeah, if it's a couple or 3 roommates?
You would have to notify all 3 of them. Now, by putting the note on the door, that should be sufficient.
Yeah.
Because you've given them the 24 hours.
And everyone can read it when they're going through.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's it.
That's what we know.
Yeah, so you can't just wander in for any given reason. You have to give people notice, and you have to follow the rules of the residential tenancy agreement. My former landlord from years back, I don't think would know an RTA if it hit him in the head sideways and knocked him out. I don't think he knew anything about it. They didn't care. No one ever brought him to court, but times have changed. Tenants are a lot more informed, and you'd really, a tenant's home is considered their castle.
If you have a camera in your property, then you've recorded a person coming in. That would be pretty hard for them to defend themselves in court. We'll always text. That's our most common method of contacting people.
Yeah.
And they typically respond. And our relationships with our tenants are such that we never really.
No, it's never really been an issue.
But still, you want to again trust in Allah and tie up your camel. As you say.
Yes.
Just to make sure you don't expose yourself to risk. And the other reason to call too is, and there's one other thing I got to talk about. The other reason to call is because it's courtesy. You don't want to just show up on someone. There are times that when you are not allowed to, with notice or without notice, unless it's an emergency, show up. You can't do it before 8 in the morning. You can't do it after 8 o'clock at night, and you can't do it on Sunday.
Or their religious holiday.
Or their religious holiday, yes. If they have a religious holiday other than Sunday, then you can go in on Sunday, and you also can't go in on stat holidays.
Yeah.
Those are some pretty common sense rules.
Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah, that's definitely it this time.
Okay. Have a great weekend.
Bye for now.